Good evening, hockey fans, and welcome to another episode of Pod Snipe Celly. My name is Dan Bradley at HockeyBoxDB on Twitter, joined as always by our good buddy Joel Fernino. Joel, how you doing tonight, bud?
I made it.
You made
I'm
it.
good. I made it.
It was looking a little dicey there for a minute.
Well, as soon as I looked at the traffic on Lakeshore Drive, I was like, well, shit. But I got here. We're good. Doing well. The sun is actually still out behind me slightly, which is a first for our
I think
viewers.
This is the brightest we've ever seen you during the show, like the most light in the room.
I mean, the light. I always have the light on. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. Speaking of darkness, though, I saw the new Batman.
Oh,
it is phenomenal.
You know what my favorite take was on the new Batman? I should start by saying I haven't seen it yet, so we'll not spoil anything here. We'll just speaking in generalities. But my favorite take is that this version of Batman puts Batman's death right around 2001 as like the time frame for when that happened, for when Batman's parents' death happened.
Oh.
So because they were on their way to the movie theater to go see a movie in 2001.
Oh, I know you're.
They were on the way to go see Shrek.
That is.
Young Bruce Wayne was going to go see Shrek and had it ruined for him forever.
Yeah. But yes, that is true. And hey, that's okay. You got to throw the funny take in there, because I'm going to throw the hot take in there that this could be the best Batman trilogy they go off.
Wow.
Two hot takes. One, if this is going to be a trilogy, there will be a sequel. That's no spoiler, but there will be a sequel at least.
Oh yeah, they can't. But I think do sequels at this point.
I think the plan is a trilogy based on what I've heard after I saw it. This could potentially be better than the Dark Knight trilogy. And the other hot take is that Robert Pattinson beats out Christian Bale as Batman.
Wow, that is bold.
It basically it's what do you prefer? Do you prefer Playboy Bruce Wayne or emo Bruce Wayne? That's all I'll say for no spoilers. I thought emo Bruce Wayne was a little cooler.
I mean, I think the other thing is we, to a degree, overhype the Dark Knight trilogy
because of Heath Ledger, rightfully so.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. The Dark Knight, that movie, was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. However, that was the best of the three, and I don't think it was particularly close on either one in that trilogy.
Close, no. I still think Rises was amazing.
Rises
it doesn't
was good.
Beat Dark
Rises
Knight,
was good, but I think the Dark Knight. I think the Dark Knight was at least 3 tiers better than Rises. That's just my take on it.
I don't disagree. I would maybe jump 1 tier down and say 2, but that's still good. And don't worry, I'm not leaving. I'm just turning my heat off.
Well, while Joel walks out of the shot and we're giving our spicy takes during the show, we want to remind you that if you have something you want to share, comment, prediction, spicy take, it can be about the Dark Knight trilogy. It can be about the new Batman. It can be about hockey.
It can be about how I'm wearing a flannel.
Joel wearing a flannel and then complaining about it being hot. It can be about the NFL trades that went, or I should say the one trade, but the other NFL news we have today with Aaron Rodgers signing a monster deal to stay in Green Bay.
Anyone who knows Dan and myself knows that we both hate that move.
Can we talk about the fact that his contract extension on its own will pay out more than 2 NHL take the top 2 teams in salary in a given year? It is still more money over those 4 years than 2 NHL teams will pay their players over 2 years.
I mean,
that's insane to me.
As much as we hate to admit it, I mean, of the 4 major sports in the U.S., I mean, hockey will pretty much remain in that 4th spot, though it is growing. King. Well, the NFL
is king, and it's not going to be close.
The NFL is king, and every sport knows to get in line. And even like I love the NFL. Like I'm never going to not love it. But they will never be dethroned, even if I like hockey like a smidge, tiny bit better. I don't know. They are king, and I think all the other sports kind of take notice, and they're just like, there's a game that day. Let's maybe schedule around that.
Well, Joel, I got to tell you, am a little down in the dumps today about my Minnesota Wild. They are 2-8-0 in their last 10 games.
Cry about it.
They okay. You can say cry about it all you want. Over the last 10 games, the Blackhawks have more points than the Wild.
Yikes.
Yeah, you want to talk about that? Yeah, we can put it into perspective here, and it's really an ugly stretch of the season. So I want to get your take on what's wrong with the Blackhawks, and I'm gonna deep dive on what's wrong with the Wild here.
I mean, your dive is going to be a little deeper than mine. I mean, we already know what's wrong with us. I mean, there's a lot wrong with us, starting with the defense, starting with a interim first time head coach deal. I mean, there's a lot of different things. That weekend was it was like promising but rough at the same time. I mean, the last episode we talked about Kyle Davidson getting hired. I'm still pretty hopeful about that. I didn't get a chance to talk about how he already won a smaller scale trade. It basically already is better than what Stan Bowman ever did on a super tiny minor scale trade. Like Sam Lafferty, who everyone listening probably doesn't even know who the hell that is. Stan Bowman's ego brought Alex Nylander here and kept him here, and Alex Nylander did jack shit. But for some stupid reason, him and Colleton had this love affair with him. And finally, once all the garbage was taken out this year from the front office, Colleton getting fired, Kyle Davidson was like, I don't care if I'm interim. I'm going to trade Alex Nylander for some guy named Sam Lafferty. Who's that? We don't really know. He has played amazing hockey for a fourth liner. So that's already a win for Kyle Davidson. I wanted to throw that out there. I didn't get to mention that last episode. But the weekend for the Hawks was a little rough, losing to the extremely disgustingly bad Philly, which we were winning a good portion of that game. I'm gonna go out on a limb. So the Blackhawks have not won a regular season game in Philadelphia since 1996.
Wow.
You think about the decade of dominance we had in the regular season. Obviously, in 2010, we won the Stanley Cup on their home ice.
And let's not forget the Flyers had some good teams in that run too.
And exactly, the late 90s, the Flyers had some juggernaut teams. But other than those late 90s Flyers, damn good teams, they've been all right here and there since 96. Or let's jump past that. Let's go to like 2000 to now. I mean, they've been good. Obviously, they made it to a cup final against us. We beat them. And they've had some decent teams over that stretch, but by a majority, they really have not been anything to really, bow down to. So it's just very weird to me that we couldn't do it again. We lost again. It's like a curse. I don't know, man. But the only thing I took a little exception to was, all right, let's go take a run at one of the Blackhawks players. Who should we do that? Oh, let's go for the shortest kid over there, Alex DeBrincat. Let's go rough him up, because that'll make us look tough. Because all Philadelphia players, fans, and teams alike are scum. But
well, I'm not going to go that far, but I mean,
I don't like Philly fans. I'm sorry.
That's fair. After the 2018 Super Bowl, I mean, I'm not exactly happy with the city of Philadelphia either. So there is
right.
that.
All right, exactly. But I mean, we shouldn't have lost that, but we did. And then you know what? We played our asses off against the Lightning, and if anything, we outplayed them for about 58 minutes. But 2 minutes in there somewhere, we lost it. I mean, we were, Patrick Kane's been on a hot streak, but even that's not enough. He can't carry this team by himself. He's as good as I say he is. This isn't the NBA, and he's not Michael Jordan, though he could be at some point. But he can't single-handedly lead a hockey team to a Stanley Cup. So I mean, we've been playing well. We played well against Tampa. Vasilevsky is a monster of a human being.
He's so damn good.
I heard a take And I don't know if I can disagree right now that like when it is all said and done, he will end up being like a top 5 goaltender in history.
All time. I think he is very well on his way.
It's hard to argue that, man. Like he's what is he? 26? 27 maybe?
Google.
Yeah, to the Google machine. But while you're doing that, I mean we were beating the Lightning 27. Okay. Yeah, so he's not even in prime goalie age yet. He's just getting
kind
into
of just entering, which
pretty
is
much.
really scary to think about.
That 28 to 31 range is where you're usually at your best as a goaltender. Yeah, I don't know, man. There were, the Lightning put up 3 goals in 32 seconds on us. Game got away. It's all the same, man. I mean, we're rebuilding. I'm terrified for our couple episodes on the our speculation of the trade deadline, which should be, if my dates are correct, we'll do that next week, right? When's the trade deadline again?
It's the
21st.
21st?
You are correct. It is the 21st. So yes, next week will be our speculation episode. There's a nice tease.
By the way, not only should we tease that, but we should also tease that we will be live on deadline day with reactions as the trades are coming in. We'll probably go live about 2:30, I think. The trade deadline is at 3:00 p.m. Eastern. We'll probably go live about 2:30 because most of the deals will have already broken that day at that point. But then we can also be live reacting as those trades are continuing to come in.
I don't have a meeting until 3 p.m., so I'm good.
Yeah, you're in business and shoot, call
3 p.m. Central, right? So the deadline would be 2 p.m.
Right,
Central.
Deadline would be 2 p.m. Central, so you've got plenty of time before that meeting. So,
Bingo.
And who knows? Meetings on Monday get canceled all the time anyway. So there is that.
That's true. But yeah, so I'm scared. I think that's how I can wrap up my I mean, we know what's wrong with the Blackhawks.
Well,
I've been bitching about it for weeks, but I'm scared. I don't know if I'm mentally prepared.
Well, you can take some solace in the fact that the Blackhawks will end up with the 2nd overall pick in the draft because their first overall pick or their first round pick this year is top 2 protected. So they'll hang on to that. They'll get Logan Cooley.
How
do you Slafkovsky?
How do you
I will hate
that?
everything.
How do you figure that? That's not going to happen.
You say that now. I'm putting it on the record now.
It ain't going to happen.
Hawks are going to pick 2nd overall. The league is going to go, "Ooh, we need the Hawks to be good, and we need them to really usher in this new era of dominance after end the Bowman era and
oh, thank God,
and turn things around." And
I still just hate the fact that like I was doing the math and like we're not gonna make the playoffs, obviously, but my math was if not for keeping Colleton. Well, that was Bowman in general, obviously. Once Bowman was out, everyone else in the organization was like, oh, thank God, get rid of him now. If not for keeping Colleton and going 9-1, or what was it? It was by the time he got fired, we had gone to
it was like
2-9-1.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad. I'm not saying we would have done phenomenally better than that to start the season without Colleton, but without Colleton, we absolutely could have done
maybe a little bit better.
2-9-1. What is that? 13. So like give me like a 5-6-2, something like that, right? Like
maybe over the course of the whole season, maybe things go different.
Even still, like we started 0-9 or 0-8-1 if you want to get technical. Like you give us like 3 or 4 of those, first 9 games that I just said, like we're right in the mix for a wild card. But whatever. That's hearsay at this point.
I think for me, looking at the Wild,
what's going on, man? You're 2-8 in your last 10.
2-8 in the last 10, and here's the real kicker: is in each of the last 5 games, they've allowed at least 4 goals, and they've alternated some starts in there with Cam Talbot and Kaapo Kähkönen, excuse me.
Kaapo Kähkönen.
Words are hard, man.
No, I mean they are. Who's started more and who's done worse?
Well, Talbot has done worse. Kähkönen has looked better since like mid-January, maybe even back to December. Even he's looked better than Talbot, but at the same time, I mean, the other night against Dallas, that was rough. That was not
Dallas
a great
is not a
game.
good team.
And the really interesting stat that I have here that I want to get called up in front of me is that you really you can't blame it on the defense. Like it 100% is the goaltending. When you look at it's expected goals against at 5-on-5, the Wild have the fourth best expected goals against average at 5-on-5, which is to say the fourth best team defense in the NHL at 2.27 goals against per 60. The three teams ahead of them are Calgary at 2.26, Colorado at 2.23, and Boston at 2.0 even. Like those are teams that really you think about the defense that those teams play, the caliber of defense that those teams play. The Wild haven't been bad defensively. Now there have been a couple of breakdowns and some questionable roster decisions. There's a big push to get prospect defenseman Kalen Addison into the lineup more and get Jordy Ben out of the lineup to a greater degree. And Ben, he's kind of bounced around with who his defensive partner is. And whoever he happens to play with tends to play worse. So it's like we've isolated that the problem probably is Ben, but he'll also then turn around and have like a phenomenal game on his own, but everybody else around him isn't playing all that great. So that's a factor as well. They've had injuries. They have not had their opening day lineup on the ice since November 2nd. They've had to deal with so many different injuries and illnesses, who's in, who's out, that tonight against the Rangers is the first time since November 2nd that they've had their opening. And I shudder to even call it their opening day lineup because Matt Boldy wasn't even there on opening day. And he's there. He's with the team now. But Boldy broke his leg during the preseason and wasn't able to join the team, for opening day. So I'm really hopeful that now that everybody's back and healthy, that this will be kind of the turning point, and that'll be where the Wild turn the page and regroup for the second half. But looking at the schedule, I mean, some of these games will come back to hurt. Like these are games that the Wild needed to pick up some points. Back-to-back losses against the Flames, 7-3 and 5-1. A 6-3 loss against Dallas. But here are two real big kickers, 5-4 against the Sabres and 4-3 against the Ottawa Senators. Both of those games on the road, but those are games that the Wild need to win. HP chiming in here. Jordy Ben stinks. We want Addison. Yes, we do.
Addison, who?
Kalen Addison.
Oh, got it.
He was the defenseman who kind of became the centerpiece of the Jason Zucker trade. So the Wild sent Zucker to Pittsburgh for Addison, a 2020 pick that was deferred to 2021. Became defenseman Carson Lambos and Alex Galchenyuk, who no longer with the Wild, and I wonder what he's even up to these days. I don't know where he's playing. I probably should have looked that up before I brought his name up.
I thought he was with.
He's with the Coyotes.
I was gonna say that too. Damn it. Well.
Yeah, so he's back in Arizona. 4 goals, 8 assists in 35 games this year.
Good for him.
That's
by good
half
for him,
their team
I mean
total.
Not good for him. Well,
yeah, not really, but
I would have believed you.
Yeah, I hope that the Wild turn it around, and I think at some point they will. They've certainly regressed back towards. I mean, this was a strong start for the Wild this season, and the wheels have kind of fallen off down the stretch. But this is still a very good team. I'm just looking at what some of those games were, and especially a tough one tonight against New York. But coming up at Detroit, at Columbus, those need to be wins. A couple of tough ones, Nashville, Boston. But then a long home stretch here, 8-game homestand, Nashville, Boston, Chicago, Vegas, Vancouver, Columbus, Colorado, Philly, 9. I can't count Pittsburgh in there as well. So that's a 9-game homestand. Wild need at least 6 wins coming out of that homestand to really hold serve in the Central Division. Especially with some games in there against like Boston, playoff team this year, Nashville, probably a playoff team this year, Vegas, playoff team this year, Colorado, playoff team this year, Pittsburgh, playoff team this year. If you want a measuring stick for where the Wild are at for the rest of the season, that stretch right there is probably going to be the measuring stick to see how well they're going to do down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're still sitting in third. So, well, Dallas is tied with you right now, but you have the tiebreaker. Nashville's hot on their tail. Winnipeg is 8 points behind Nashville. And then there's us in Arizona. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a little bit of separation there, but we're not going to talk about that. We'll save that one.
Let's please not do that.
All right. Let's switch segments, actually. We're going to debut a brand new segment on this show. Came up with this one the other day.
A recurring segment, by the way.
It will be a recurring segment. Fact or cap? We are going to throw out a couple of statements about the National Hockey League and decide if that statement is fact or if it is cap. It is a lie. It is not true in any way, shape, or form.
Do we explain what cap means for any of our older audience members?
Just did. It's the opposite of fact. So,
well, I'm just saying.
I mean, if you couldn't extrapolate that,
hey, I don't know.
I kind of can't help you.
I don't know who watches this. Who watches us sober? Maybe they're not sober enough to have heard you. Maybe they're distracted. Yeah. I'm thinking of the people, Dan. The people.
That's a first.
That is a damn lie.
I just had to see how you'd react to that.
Move on.
Into the bit. Joel, question number 1. Fact or cap? This is the year that the Toronto Maple Leafs win a first-round playoff series. We are coming out of the gates swinging on this segment.
Oh, man, Canada is going to, I don't know, hate us.
Maybe
don't
not.
hate us. I would rather, I want to move to your country at some point. Don't hate me. Do they win a first round series this year? I mean, man, it depends on who it would be against, and like, I don't even know if I'm like, I don't even know then. Like, look at their division and who they'd end up having to match up against. So they're in third, so they would end up matching up against what?
Probably you would get the second place finisher in that division, which is either at this point looking to be Florida or Tampa Bay. Take your pick.
Yeah. No. Cap all day, and that you just proved my point right there. It's not going to be, that second seed is not going to be anybody other than Florida or Tampa, unless somehow, some way Toronto hops into that second seed. If Tampa falls off, which doesn't seem to be like that's going to happen. Florida, that's just not going to happen. I'm going to say cap. No, I don't think they win a first round playoff series this year. You're going up against either Tampa or Florida, which that sentence alone is very confusing to just Tampa, Tampa or the Panthers.
Yeah, which is more likely to have the best hockey team? Toronto, Florida, Tampa Bay. Which of those three is most like? Well, turns out
2 of them are in the same state.
Not only that, but that the Canadian one is probably, I mean, just looking at the standings right now, they're the quote unquote worst of those 3, and they're not a bad team by any stretch, but they've kind of had some hiccups down the road here. Peter Mrazek and Campbell not playing well.
I heard
needing some supplementary scoring, needing to boost the team defense. Probably going to make a move at the trade deadline.
Yes, and now to your point, I heard a rumor the other day, actually yesterday, the other day. I don't know how much smoke it has. Obviously, I'm not going to get into deadline speculation. That's for next week, but I did hear something about the potential rumblings of a Marc-Andre Fleury interest. Toronto, I believe, reached out to the Blackhawks. asking about Fleury, and apparently, reportedly, Peter Mrazek was involved in those talks, which I don't
He
want
would
Peter
almost have
Mrazek.
to be. He would almost have to be just to make the money work.
Yeah, and we would. I think we were retaining like some of his salary, his Fleury's salary, stuff like
You'd have to,
that.
yeah, you'd have to retain, half his contract.
It's about 50%.
That's a 7 million cap hit, so that'd be 3.5
Three and a
mil.
half. Yep. So
Um,
yeah,
I'm looking at
it's
Cap Friendly right now to try and see what
yeah.
Mrazek's deal is at. I don't know that one. 3.8. So yeah, um, they would be clearing only 300K in cap room between those two players, barring anybody else on the move.
Yeah, I thought I retweeted it. I don't think I did.
I thought Fleury already said like he is staying in Chicago. He doesn't want to move his family again. He turned down the trade to the Capitals earlier this year, which different scenario there. He hated the Caps for years. Played against them with Pittsburgh for a long time.
Oh yeah, no. I don't think it's gonna happen. Those have been the more solid reports that he's probably not gonna get moved just because he doesn't want to, and we are like the organization said from the get go, like we're gonna do right by whatever Fleury wants, and if he doesn't want to leave, I ain't gonna complain. I have a blast watching him, regardless if the team is bad or not.
Quick sidebar here, while we kind of bring this up, and with the NFL trade today of Russell Wilson to the Broncos for just a haul of picks and players.
Yeah,
what
ridiculous?
What NHL deal? Like what player would you liken to Russell Wilson for that type of a move? Like what what NHL player?
You mean giving up a so for anyone who doesn't realize what Russell Wilson got back, so it was Russell Wilson and a fourth to the Broncos for, correct me if I'm wrong at any point in here, 2 firsts,
Correct.
2 seconds.
Correct.
Drew Lock, which was the Broncos starting quarterback, Noah Fant, which was their emerging star tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And then just
and then a defensive lineman and a 5th round pick in there as well.
5th round pick. So that is 5 draft picks total, regardless of round.
Mm-hmm.
A starting quarterback, which equivalent.
Well, quarterback in hockey. Is Drew Lock
he was their starting quarterback
because so, like, he can start, but is he really a starting quarterback?
No, I mean maybe in Seattle he is for now.
Mm-hmm.
But so I mean that's huge. Noah Fant. I think Noah Fant, the 2 firsts and the 2 seconds are your biggest, like, hell yeah, give me all the money right there. Like that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just get rid of like even Drew Lock, I guess, but 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a star tight end,
mm-hmm.
and then of course a quarterback. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, you don't really see big, like massive trades like that many picks. I mean, that many picks is like an NBA, NFL type thing. You see it here, like the Hawks sending 2 firsts for Seth Jones. Like you see that stuff, but you don't really see anything more than
mm-hmm.
2.
Well, yeah, even looking at a player of Eichel's caliber, the return on his deal, I'm looking at this going.
Remind me what his return was again.
It was Alex
firsts,
Tuck.
Right?
Alex Tuck, a couple of firsts, and who's the other prospect? Like a good prospect forward.
A good prospect. That's fine.
I'm trying to remember who it was. I really should know
decent. It. Yeah, so a good prospect. I mean,
Peyton Krebs. That's who it was.
Oh yeah. I mean, who in the NHL is worth? I mean, I think our answer is right there. I think
HP jumped in to help us out. Peyton Krebs. Thanks, HP.
Thanks, HP. I mean, I before he got traded, I probably would have said Jack Eichel, just because we knew he wanted to get the hell out, and he needed to get the hell out of Buffalo too. So, I mean, Jack Eichel, probably Russell Wilson-esque, right? Russell Wilson's phenomenal. You know, if I had to pick someone that wasn't already traded, we got to think about the age too, because Russell Wilson is still in his prime. Man, I don't know. I mean, who would you say right off the bat?
Well, HP threw an interesting one out here. He said Nathan
Nathan
McKinnon. I
McKinnon.
think that might be a little
I would
bit of an
probably.
overvaluation on Wilson.
I was about to.
Because I think
I totally agree.
McKinnon is a top 5 forward in the league right now,
Yes.
if not top 3.
Maybe.
Oh man, maybe like a Steven Stamkos. Maybe
he's at this point, his age puts him a
yeah,
little bit.
age is a factor there too.
Like, Stamkos is still great. That's not any, that's not a naysay on him, but maybe like a Jonathan Huberdeau. Or
I could see Barkov with the value on centers.
maybe Barkov. I was torn between the two of them, and I kind of just flipped a coin, honestly.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up Jonathan Huberdeau because
whatever.
The next one here is Factor Cap. Igor Shesterkin will win the Hart Trophy as league MVP.
Wait a minute. And you didn't give your Factor Cap on the last
one.
one.
I said Cap. I said 100% Cap.
Okay.
But yeah, looking at the odds to win the Hart Trophy as league MVP, Austin Matthews plus 250, Connor McDavid and Igor Shesterkin at plus 300, Alex Ovechkin at 800, Leon Draisaitl 900, and Jonathan Huberdeau plus 1,200. Nobody else is below 3,500 other than if you take the field. So, will Igor Shesterkin win the Hart Trophy as MVP?
And what was the last goalie to win the Hart?
Carey Price.
It was Carey Price, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was 2016.
16?
Yeah, okay. So
or 15, sorry.
Was it 15?
Yeah, 2014-15. Just Googled it.
Okay. I mean, it like, I want to say fact, but it to me, and like before Price, who was the last goalie to win the Hart and when?
Oh boy, before that, without looking it up, I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd probably throw out there, maybe like Hasek, Patrick Waugh. Maybe we're going that far back.
There we go. That's kind of what I'm at. Like, I'm curious. Like, does it go that far back?
Yeah, Dominic Hasek in 98.
So it was 98, and then it was 2015 for Price.
Yeah.
That's a huge.
False. I take that back. I missed one here. Jose Theodore in 2002.
Even still.
Yeah.
Even still. So it took from 2002 to 2015. 14-15 season. The reason that I think I'm going to say Cap is absolutely zero taking away from Shesterkin's performance, because like we both said on the first episode of this podcast, the dude was going to be in contention for the Vezina. If not, I think I even hot taked and just called he was going to win the Vezina. So far, I'm looking like I'm going to win that. But
yeah, 28, 6-3, 942 save percentage, 193 goals against average, 3 shutouts. Like, those are some phenomenal numbers.
And he's got a solid defensive team in front of him with New York, but like, they're not. You look at the Rangers and you're not like Tampa defense, total like connection there. They're still fantastic, but like, Shesterkin's.
Well, if you want to go back to that, where I was talking about earlier with the 5-on-5 expected goals against per 60,
please.
Rangers rank 22nd in the league on that list at 262.
So
reminder that for comparison, the Wild were 4th at 227.
Right.
So they are bottom half of the league in that expected goals against at 5.5 or at on 5-on-5.
It's so tough because I really want to say fact. The only thing keeping me from maybe doubling down on saying fact is that the heart is similar to that of the NFL MVP. It's a quarterback. It's a quarterback trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else who wins it, like, you have to have a damn near franchise or a record-breaking season in some way, shape, or form. And to me, like, yeah, goalies can win it, but look at that gap, man. Like, since, what did you say, 96 it was with Hasek, or 98?
98 with Hasek, and then 2002
Yes,
with
so
Theodore.
98, and then 2002, and then 2014. Like, so we've had 3 goalies in the last, 25, 30 years almost, right? Like,
mm-hmm. By the way, can you name the last non-quarterback to win NFL MVP?
Oh man, I used to know this. I forgot. Is it a wide receiver?
No.
Was it a running back?
It was a running back. By the way, no wide receiver has ever won NFL MVP.
That's right. That was the
more kickers have won NFL MVP than wide receivers.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite stats.
That's very interesting. Mm-hmm. Running back. Oh man, without Googling it, was it Adrian Peterson?
It was Adrian Peterson, okay. 2012.
I knew it.
Which, like, Derrick Henry rushed for 2,000 yards a couple of years ago, and that still wasn't even enough to unseat
Jonathan
MVP.
Taylor this year.
Yeah,
definitely put himself into the conversation, and it was still a quarterback thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be fair, obviously, you see. Well, actually, no. Honestly, like, if we even jump into like the defensemen that have won the heart, right? Like, obviously, a little more than goalies, but it's always a forward for the most part.
Yeah, almost exclusively. In fact,
so
you talk about that for a minute. I'll try and find the last defenseman to have a.
I think I just did.
Here.
Yeah, I think I just did. I want to see. I want to see if you can guess it. I will give you the year though. It was the 1999-2000 season. That was the last time a defenseman won the heart. Right? Yeah.
Let me think. Oh, Chris Pronger.
Correct.
Pronger. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, yeah. If anything, that's actually almost less than goalies.
Yeah, goalies are almost slightly more likely than a defenseman to win it. Which
it's so weird to me because a goaltender is absolutely the most important position.
By the way, Cale Makar plus 4,000. That could be some value.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
$100 on that. Put $100 on that to win. What would you win for that? 40 grand or $4,000? Am I doing that math right?
$4,000.
$4,000. Okay, whatever.
$100 bet would net $4,000. Yeah.
So 1,000.
Net, but you would win $4,000.
1,000 would hit you $40,000 if you want to throw $1,000 on a hockey bet. You know what? We have one thing. We have the do it for the bit, and we have I love my hot takes. Fact.
Atta kid. I have really been kind of tossing on this one a lot. Basically since I came up with the question on it, and I think I'm gonna go Cap, but it also wouldn't surprise me at all to see him get it. Like,
it's almost like I feel dirty saying that it was a hot take because he absolutely deserves it at this point in the season. If the season ended today, give it to him.
Right. Top give 3 odds. Here's the other thing that I think might hurt his case a little bit, and that is if the Rangers don't win the division, which they're 6 points behind the Carolina Hurricanes, and they've played the same number of games. I think one of the important factors that will be considered with winning the heart is your team performance, which I get it. Individual award versus team performance is a factor and probably shouldn't be. But I still think it's going to have to be in this situation because what value did you add to your team if they didn't win the division? If they didn't make the playoffs? Which is actually another very interesting point because that will segue us into our last one here. Factor Cap, the Edmonton Oilers will make the playoffs.
Wow.
Because right now, if the playoffs started today, the Oilers are out. They are 4th in the Pacific. They are 4 points behind Vegas. They are 2 points behind the Nashville Predators for wild card 2. Joel, fact or cap, the Edmonton Oilers will make the playoffs.
Dude, I don't know, man. That's tough. Can we just delete the fact that I said they'd make the Stanley Cup final this year?
I mean, you're going to have to kind of stick with that one.
Well, were they not on pace? And then all of a sudden
they had a great start to the season,
yeah,
and then
more
they
than
started.
Yeah, then shit hit the proverbially hit the fan. Like it. What the hell happened? Like, are they really just that cursed out there? They are wasting Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's career. If I were those two, I mean, McDavid already signed the highest paid player in the league type of contract for, what was it, 10 years? Because it can only be 10 years, right? 8 years, right? Whatever. Dude, if I were him, I'd be like, trade me, get me the hell out of here. I don't care what it takes. I don't care. I don't have a no movement clause. Anywhere is better at this point, which is probably not true. But I mean, how do you explain this, man?
Well, I think what you can point to is at the start of the year, games at home, Vancouver, Calgary, Anaheim, Arizona, a win against a Vegas team that they were still dealing with some injuries at the start of the year, at Vancouver, home against Seattle, Nashville, and the Rangers in overtime. Like, those are their wins to start the year, where they're 10-1-0 at that point. Then they start getting into the stretch where they play Minnesota, Los Angeles, Minnesota, Boston, Carolina, Toronto.
Yeah.
And then they lose a bunch. And then St. Louis on the back end of that. Overtime at the Islanders, regulation against the Rangers and the Maple Leafs, and the losing continues. And now we're still seeing it. And this is particularly, I mean, sorry to dunk on them again, but a loss in overtime at Chicago, and then a 5-2 loss at home against Montreal. Like, those are games that you would expect the Oilers to be winning. And I think if Edmonton misses the playoffs, you can scratch Draisaitl and McDavid from Hart conversation, even if they, kick butt the entire second half, finish with 120 points. And
well, I mean,
granted, that would be pretty remarkable because right now, Draisaitl at 79 points. If you want to round and say 80, but they've played 57 games. So you're going to tell me that over the final, I can do math, over the final 25 games that he would get 55 points. Like, it's not impossible.
It's Connor McDavid,
but it's not likely. It's McDavid and Draisaitl, but
I mean,
it'll be a lot.
Yeah, I know, but I think I'm gonna have to go. How many games do we have left in the season?
23? No, 25. 25 games for Edmonton.
I can't.
4 points out of a playoff spot. I'm checking to see if they have games in hand.
I'm just looking at who's ahead.
They have 1 game in hand on the Kings. The Calgary Flames in first place have 2 games in hand on everybody behind them.
Well, they're not going anywhere.
No. The LA Kings out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and we talked about them recently too. Like, the Kings are quietly having a really good season too.
That's my thing. Like, I don't know how long they sustain that. They've kind of fluctuated. Vegas obviously is underwhelming right now.
But that's also, Vegas has been.
Yeah, they've been
Stone's out, Pacioretty's out, Leonard's out, Eichel's out. They have not put together their full team,
power lineup, and they won't until.
And they're the type
playoffs.
of team that, they're the type of team, kind of like what Tampa Bay was last year, where get to the playoffs, get Stone back from long-term injured reserve. There's no salary cap, and suddenly you're trotting out Eichel, Stone, Pacioretty as your top line. That's going to be a scary team come playoffs. Once
they're utilizing,
if they get there.
Yeah, they're utilizing the long-term IR like like the Blackhawks, like we did in 2015-16 when Kane broke his collarbone. Like we had that stacked team, and then he was like, no, you go rehab, and then as soon as the playoffs started, he comes in and does his thing.
Same with Kucherov with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, exactly.
Same deal.
You gotta know how to utilize that thing. I'm gonna go just because of who is ahead of them, 4 points out, 25 games left. Dallas is doing well right now. Obviously, they're hot, but other than this hot streak they're on, they've been kind of whatever. They've been meh. Nashville had a fall from grace. They were super hot, and now they're starting to fall. I'm gonna say Cap.
You're gonna say Cap. You're gonna say the Oilers missed the playoffs.
Wait, what? Oh, miss. I read make as miss.
I said fact or Cap.
Sorry. Fact. I'm gonna say fact.
Fact, they'll make the playoffs.
Yes,
okay.
I was leaning Cap until I started looking at who's ahead of them and are they going to be able to sustain what they're doing right now? I'm gonna say no. So I think Edmonton can find a gear, and maybe not with 25 games left find that gear, but maybe when that 20 to 18, maybe 16 or 15 games are left, I think they hit that gear that they had before, and they push themselves in. It's hard to bet against McDavid and Draisaitl.
It really, really is. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say Cap. I'm gonna say they missed the playoffs, and here's why. Over their final 10 games of the regular season, Colorado, Minnesota, Nashville, Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, Columbus, Pittsburgh, San Jose, Vancouver. Those are their last 10 games. That is going to be a very, very tough stretch. They do get a lot of home games in there, but to be grinding for that playoff spot, and especially knowing, like, playing against Colorado, who's going to be competing for home ice, playing for Minnesota, who's going to be trying to get the home ice in that first series, playing against Dallas, who is trying to fend off being a wild card team, playing against Pittsburgh, who's going to be scrapping for playoff position. Those games are going to be brutal down the stretch for Edmonton. I don't trust their goaltending situation at all. I don't trust their defense. They're not getting depth scoring. I'm going to say Cap, and I'm going to say the Oilers missed the playoffs.
Did I not call the firing of
you kind of did, and we already gave you credit for that one, so I'm not going to pump your tires too much now.
Just saying, man, I told you.
Yeah, I didn't think there was any chance the Oilers were going to miss the playoffs this year. Now I'm on the record saying I think they're going to miss.
Too many years in a row with all that hype and all that talent, and you got to start somewhere. I'm not saying it was the coaching specifically, but you got to start somewhere.
Well, we got about 12 minutes or so left to the show, so let's move into our Wednesday night picks. Joel,
only 2 games.
Only 2 games, and maybe that's a good thing for you, because after the 5-win week 2 weeks ago, it was 0 for 4 last week. The duality of NHL bets.
Yeah.
The picks giveth, the picks taketh away.
Yeah.
So you can see the overall records up on the screen. I went 2-2 last week. Joel 0-4. So I gained a little bit of ground there, and it's only 1 win separating us, but those 4 losses. I gotta have another good week here. So let's move into the first one. The Oilers, who we were just talking about, at home against the Washington Capitals tomorrow night. Capitals plus 105 on the money line, at the Oilers minus 125. Joel, you picked the Oilers to make the playoffs. Does it start with a win tomorrow night at home against the Caps?
I feel like it doesn't start tomorrow night against the Caps. I mean, I don't know. I feel like every time I've tried to bet against the Capitals, they have slapped it right back in my face. Man, this sucks. I feel like the Oilers could totally win here, but I'm going to go Capitals.
That makes 2 of us.
Really?
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Look at Edmonton's injury report here. They got a couple guys out with illnesses. Evan Bouchard, Mike Smith, Tyson Barrie still on IR. Nuge may or may not be back tomorrow, but he's on IR with a shoulder injury. Puljujärvi's on that list. That's tough. And the Caps are finally getting healthy. They got Vanacek back now, so that was huge, kind of steadying the goaltending situation a bit. And then just looking at recent records here as well. Capitals are 5-5-0 over their last 10, but they've won 2 in a row. Edmonton 4-5-1 and on a 3-game losing streak. I think that streak continues. I think Caps on the road. That's some good value, plus 105 on the road in the first game of the night. Then second game of the night, Montreal Canadiens. We're going back to the puck line on this one. Canadiens plus a goal and a half at minus 130. At the Vancouver Canucks minus a goal and a half at plus 110. Joel, who you got?
I always putting those amazing teams in on the Wednesday night TNT primetime. Man, It's just riveting.
Yeah, we can't even do Coyotes for the bit this week.
No, we can't. That's a first. Oh.
But by the way, we need a quick recap last week where we both said we picked Toronto. We felt absolutely terrible about picking Toronto to beat the Sabres. And we both chickened out. We both said this is the type of game that the Maple Leafs lose. And we both picked Toronto to win anyway.
And they got their asses handed to them.
Beat 5-1. I mean, that wasn't even that was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Why do you think I went cap on the Maple Leafs winning a playoff series? They can't beat the Sabres. They've lost Arizona this year too, right? And I think they've lost Ottawa.
Yes, they did. That was my first Coyotes for the bit to win. Where I also said this is the type of game that the Maple Leafs find a way to lose, and sure enough, they did.
Man, I mean, obviously Montreal's bottom feeding the Atlantic Division right there, but damn, they're 7-3-0 in their last 10. Man, they're rocking a 2-game winning streak.
Yeah, new head coach Martin St. Louis turning things around there a little bit. Cole Caulfield starting to score again.
Love me some Marty St. Louis. And Vancouver is actually 7-3-0 in their last 10. Also rocking. So there's 2-game win streaks going into this game. So I'm gonna quote the legendary Pat Foley: "Something's gotta give.
Somebody's always got to go."
Man, and on the puck line too. That's tough. They're both not very good teams. Well, Vancouver's kind of pushing, but
Vancouver's got a ways to go. They're 2 points behind Edmonton, who we just said isn't making the playoffs.
Right.
With the same number of games played.
Puck line is always tough, but I'm going to go Montreal. I'm going to say they cover. Now, that's not to say I think they're going to win. I actually, if I'm betting on this game, I'm probably going to take Vancouver on the money line, but on the puck line, I'm going to take the Canadiens. I think they can hang in there.
Well, and even there, that's some tough value on the money line as well. Because looking at that one, the odds for tomorrow night, the Canucks minus 210 on the money line. So even there, you're getting less than half of your money in winnings.
I'm gonna have to parlay these two and see what that payout would be.
That'd be a little better, but that's a tough parlay to hit too, because then an empty net goal, that blows your parlay.
Oh, I know.
That could be trouble. I'm taking Vancouver in this one. I do think Vancouver's the better team. Yes, Montreal's been playing better lately, but I think Vancouver they've been the better team all season. Playing well lately, as you said a moment ago. 7-3-0 in their last 10. Here's the big difference for me. Goal differential on the season: Vancouver Canucks -1, Montreal -75.
That's true.
Give me the team with the -1 on that one. I'll take Vancouver at minus a goal and a half. And pick them to win. So recap of the picks. Joel is taking Montreal on the puck line. I'm taking Vancouver. And we're both taking the Washington Capitals on the road. Joel, it is your week for 2 minutes for roughing. And you, my friend, mentioned to me what you're going to be doing this week.
Absolutely.
For 2 minutes for roughing, and I am very excited to see where you go with this one.
You better toss that explicit on the Spotify.
It's there. It's been there for the last couple of shows.
Smart. When you're dealing with me, smart.
Yeah, you do what you got to do.
All right. So Let's get a little stretch in, just stretch out the vocal cords. That's not a thing. All right, go ahead.
In 3, 2, 1, go.
So I feel like everyone saw this news yesterday. It was all over ESPN and everything. Calvin Ridley, the star all-pro wide receiver of the Atlanta Falcons, was suspended for an entire season, all next season, for gambling on games while he was away from the team, I might add. So my roughing starts out with, that is complete and utter bullshit. The NFL sits there counting their multi-millions of dollars they're making from these said multi-million-dollar deals with all these sports betting platforms. I can't watch an NFL game without getting Drew Brees telling me to live my bet life on a PointsBet commercial, or DraftKings, FanDuel. No, the only one they stay away from is Barstool. It's because Roger Goodell hates them. But anyway, like, you're going to suspend this guy who was away from the game. So it's not like he was, helping the outcome while you collect your money. And this dude he's now going to have to sit out for an entire season. Next season doesn't even start for another, 4 months? It is so fucking stupid that he's going to get suspended for 17 games for betting. He hit a parlay. Yippee. But yet you have all of these other suspensions in the past. Domestic abuse. Look at Ray Rice. He got 2 games, 2 games? Yeah. Kareem Hunt got 3, 4 games. Like, there's a bunch of different examples. So clearly, gambling is worse than beating the shit out of your girlfriend, apparently, according to the NFL and Roger Goodell. But it's all a money-making thing. It is just so stupid that now Calvin Ridley has to sit out because all he did was bet on games that he couldn't even determine the outcome. Fuck you, Roger Goodell.
7, I believe, is the number of betting partnerships that the NFL has with different sports books. And like you said, Ridley was away from the team. He did not have any sort of inside information or anything like that that would have affected the outcome. He bet on his team to win.
Yep.
In a state where it was legal, by the way.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was, using, any sort of like a VPN or something like that, or messing with the geolocating to break the rules to place a bet.
It's legal in Georgia.
By all non-NFL legality rules, he was free and clear. He was within his rights to do it. Now, there's some nuances to the CBA and to various deals there.
Yeah, I get it. Like, rules are rules. I'm not arguing that fact, but a full season?
Full season is ridiculous. I
5+ games would be ridiculous.
I think he's going to appeal. I bet he can get the suspension cut in half. Excuse me. I think independent arbiter is probably where it's going to go. I can't see it standing up for the full season. I just can't.
I mean, I can't either, but they're pretty quick to end. I didn't even get into the, like I didn't even get to do this. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time because I was focusing on all the other stuff. Like, I focused on, well, rightfully so. I focused on how little game suspensions there were for all the domestic, abuse issues that the NFL has had over the last, let's say decade. And I didn't even get to the fact of, the whole Brian Flores thing. Right? Like,
oh yeah, where he's trying to throw games to
like where you're starting to hear that owners are paying off coaches and giving them hella raises and hella bonuses to lose games. Oh no, but how dare you bet on a game? Like, what the like?
Yeah, what are we really doing here?
I mean, it's not like, the NFL knows that they're untouchable, and they are. I'm never gonna not watch them. I love football. I love the NFL. I just hate who runs it.
I think that's a good place to end for tonight's show. I want to thank, as always, Noob Sports and the Sports 2.0 Network giving us the platform for our shows. This is episode number 19. Like, it's amazing to think
Damn!
where this show has started and where it's gone.
Look at that timing.
Up
We're
over
gonna hit
100
20 for the
followers.
trade deadline.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
20 for the
one
trade deadline. Milestone show. That's going to be our talker next week. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at PodsnipeCelly. As always, you can catch us on demand on iTunes and Spotify. When Spotify is working, that is. Spotify stopped working this afternoon. Had to get that little chirp in there.
I didn't have that issue. Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah, so we had that to worry about. But we do want to encourage all of you to stay tuned. In the Green Bets is coming up next. That is the golf show here on the Sports 2.0 network. So hockey, golf, they go together pretty well. The Blackhawks going to be golfing here any day now. But we'll see if my Wild are not too far behind. They might be the way that they're playing. So I'm going to go watch.
Kevin Fiala and Patrick Kane will be on the same green. All right.
They very well could be. I think that's yeah, I'm going to go watch the Wild right now. They're a few minutes away from puck drop here, so
we'll
we'll
watch
find
the Blackhawks play against the Ducks. See if we can beat them.
But stay tuned. Next week's show, once again, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. For Joel, I'm Dan. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.
Bye-bye.